Tonight on CTV News at 6, the city says 1 in 10 drivers are ignoring the Phase 2 parking ban. Plow operators say they are having a hard time navigating some neighborhood roads as they also deal with hostility on the job.
We had some areas where we actually had to demob from there due to worker safety, due to threats from the public.
Plus, some emergency room doctors are claiming wait times have led to at least half a dozen deaths.
That document is some reinforcement of actual human suffering that the extreme pressure is causing.
And a call for help after fire breaks out at a local horse rescue.
I looked out the window and seen smoke bellowing out of the building.
Snowy and gusty tonight, and it looks like the wind will stick around for most of tomorrow.
CTV Edmonton, local breaking news with Nariman Issa.
Good evening. The city estimates 90% of drivers are ignoring the residential parking ban. Now, it decided today to keep parking ban fines status quo as crews work to clear neighborhoods following historic snowfalls. CTV's Jeremy Thompson reports the lack of compliance is frustrating for city workers who are also encountering more angry Edmontonians than usual.
A section of street in northeast Edmonton sits untouched by city plows, evidently too narrow to navigate with cars parked on either side.
When there's parked cars on the street, it prevents them from doing the best job they possibly can do, and it's frustrating for them.
The city estimates only 1 in 10 vehicles complied with the neighborhood parking ban last week, and that's not the only obstacle crews are encountering.
We had some areas where we actually had to demob from there due to worker safety, due to threats from the public. So we had to demobilize from those areas and delay them and reschedule them.
People throwing shovels at the units. There was one person that had a baseball bat pulled out on them. There has been death threats, verbal assaults.
Councillor Michael Jans visited workers over the weekend and says they're feeling burnt out and unappreciated.
People are not sleeping. People have given up their holiday with loved ones. People are working around the clock. I don't even want to know what our overtime bill is right now.
Councillors say there need to be consistent consequences for disobeying the parking ban.
And people figure, why should I have to move my vehicle there? You know, the likelihood of that I'm going to get ticketed or towed is quite low.
They agreed to keep the fine at $250 rather than lowering it and say more enforcement officers are needed. Last week, roughly 2,600 parking ban tickets were issued by just 5 officers.
We probably need 45. Honestly, based on my inbox, we probably have more than enough work to go around.
The union president believes better communication by the city would also boost compliance. Doing more of anything will require growing the current $67 million snow and ice budget, a tricky target to hit as winter weather becomes less predictable. Jeremy Thompson, CTV News, Edmonton.
People living in Rio Terrace claim the city is handing out tickets before some parking bans even begin. CTV's Miriam Valdez-Carletti joins us now from that neighborhood with more. And Miriam, what are you hearing from neighbors?
Well, Nariman, people I spoke with say that they signed up for the city's text notifications and ended up with parking tickets anyways. Greg Border says that he received a text last Wednesday saying that plowing had been rescheduled to this coming Friday, the 23rd. He says that's the only notification he got. Overnight Saturday, he got a $250 ticket. He says at least 7 to 8 other neighbors were also ticketed. 2 neighbors I spoke with say they would have been fine paying the tickets if the roads were plowed, which they weren't. They say communication about the bans has been confusing.
It doesn't make sense that you would get a ticket for when the plows aren't around even for a week.
We've done everything that we can to be caught up on the notifications and to be aware of the dates. When things are arbitrarily changed and we don't have an opportunity to get educated on it using the systems that the city has put in place, that's where it's unfair.
Broder says his street ended up getting plowed late this afternoon. Both neighbors say they plan to challenge the tickets. And we have asked the city why people were told that plowing would happen later this week, and we have yet to hear back. Nariman?
All right, Miriam Valdez-Carletti reporting live for us tonight. Thank you. A trial has begun in Edmonton for the man accused of what's described as vicious attacks on 2 men in Chinatown. Justin Bone is charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. CTV's Amanda Anderson reports.
This was the scene in Chinatown in May 2022. 64-year-old Hung Trang was attacked in the washroom of the auto body shop where he worked. He died the next day in hospital. Hours later, not far away, the body of 61-year-old Bon Fu Kwong was found inside his store, Universal Electronics and Video. Today, Justin Bone, the man accused of beating them to death, pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder. During opening remarks, the Crown provided an outline of its evidence. He described the attacks as vicious on 2 men who weren't looking for any trouble that day. A mental health assessment on Bone is underway, but the Crown argued Bone's actions showed purpose and sufficient mental functioning to form intent. The Crown also told the court evidence of Bone's DNA found under one of the victim's fingernails will be presented. Surveillance video from the auto body shop was played, showing what appears to be Bone at the business. Trang is also seen, then goes into the washroom area. The man follows about 30 seconds later. An employee at the auto body shop testified through an interpreter he heard voices from the washroom saying, "Hey." He told the court he saw a stranger stomping on something near a washing machine. Soon after, he says he found his co-worker lying face down with blood on the floor and water flowing from a broken toilet tank. Before the trial started, Trang's daughter provided a statement saying they've waited almost 4 years for this day. She says this process is about honoring the victims and their families, their dignity, and right to truth and accountability. The Crown intends to focus its witnesses and evidence on the scene at the auto body shop to begin with, then move on to the scene at the electronics and video store, followed by Bone's time in custody right after his arrest. The trial continues tomorrow. Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
A document obtained by CTV News states emergency room waits in Alberta hospitals led to at least 6 deaths and more than 24 delays for patients with serious conditions. Now, the information was gathered by the Alberta Medical Association to understand how the current hospital crunch is affecting Albertans waiting for care. CTV's Nicole Weisberg has the details.
These are just some examples collected to try to get government to share our urgency.
Dr. Paul Parks is referring to this list, collected by the Alberta Medical Association, reported by colleagues, of deaths and near misses in Alberta emergency rooms in recent weeks. The 6 deaths include a woman waiting 8 hours to be seen who was eventually diagnosed with a bowel obstruction. She received emergency surgery, but by that time was septic and ended up dying about 24 hours later. Another, a man who had chest pain for months, went to an urgent care center but left before being seen due to the long wait. He went to his family doctor, was scheduled for a test, but ended up suffering a fatal out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. A third case, almost identical to that of 44-year-old Prashant Sri Kumar, who died in the Grey Nuns emergency department. It says a middle-aged man had ongoing chest pain, waited 8 hours in the emergency room for a bed, and when he finally got one, suffered cardiac arrest and died.
They're just the tip of the iceberg, and they are just highlighting from my colleagues across the province how severe things are on a daily basis.
The Ministry of Hospitals told CTV News it could not comment on the unverified, anonymized patient information being circulated for privacy and legal reasons, although it takes this information seriously. At a news conference last week, the minister acknowledged the pressure on the healthcare system, driven, he says, by a tough flu season.
There is province-wide coordination. There always has been, there always will be. And I would say that it's the only reason we've gotten through the bulk of respiratory virus season.
He said a pilot project will see a doctor work alongside triage nurses in Alberta's busiest emergency departments. He also said a long-term capital plan is being developed. Nicole Weisberg, CTV News, Edmonton.
The federal gun buyback program has begun. Owners of banned firearms have until the end of March to state their interest in the program. It offers compensation for turning in or permanently deactivating illegal weapons. Since 2020, Ottawa has banned about 2,500 types of guns. Alberta's Justice Office says, in part, it will not participate in what it calls the federal confiscation program. The buyback program is on a first-come, first-served basis. Well, the federal NDP leadership candidate Heather McPherson says now is the time to grow the party. Edmonton Strathcona MP was in Calgary over the weekend meeting with supporters. McPherson is considered a front runner in the leadership race. As she says, she feels there is a voice missing from the national conversation as Canada deals with the twists and turns of a trade war.
We need a strong leader that can actually hit the ground running on day one to lead the New Democratic Party. And it's important for not just New Democrats, it's important for all Canadians, because we need a strong progressive party in the House of Commons that is in fact fighting for Canadians, that is holding the government accountable, that is holding the government to the promises that they have made to Canadians.
The NDP will select its next leader at its convention in March. Well, some people living in Strathcona County say they are worried their water bills could skyrocket in the coming years. The city is planning to shut down a water filling station used by thousands of homes. CTV's Evan Kenny has more on why the decision was made and how much more water will cost.
Water trucks leave this station in Sherwood Park to fill tanks at homes and businesses around Strathcona County.
Water is an essential service. Water is life.
This is where homeowner Ann Colburn gets her water from for now.
That decision was to decommission this water fill station in 2029.
In 2024, Strathcona County Council voted to cease operations here, opting to instead upgrade a station east of town near Ardrossan and build a new station south of Sherwood Park.
That option 2 is the lowest cost option that was put forward in relation to the group that benefits the most, which is the bulk water users.
Colburn says between the added costs the county is charging for building and improving the filling stations, as well as for delivery from further away, she could see her water bill go up thousands of dollars each year.
It's not like WestJet when they decided to narrow the seats. People can say, I'll fly another airline. We live in the county. We pay taxes in the county. We expect equitable access to basic services like water.
The county says most months the Ardrossan fill station has twice as many transactions as the Sherwood Drive location. Right now, people like Colburn pay just over $3 per cubic meter or 1,000 liters. That will go up 45 cents per cubic meter if filling in Ardrossan and 40 to 55 cents at the South Station.
Council was weighing and balancing sort of the level of service implications with the cost of service implications.
These changes will come into effect in 2029 after construction is complete at the water stations. Evan Kenny, CTV News, Sherwood Park.
Family, teammates, and fans of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins helped him celebrate reaching 1,000 career NHL games on Sunday.
And it is 1,000th game, all with the Edmonton Oilers, number 93, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
That's his brother and closest friends reading out the Oilers' opening lineup ahead of their game against the St. Louis Blues last night. Now, everyone wore shirts with Nugent's face on them. A ceremony before the game included a video tribute with messages from current and former teammates. Nugent then scored the game's first goal 6 minutes in, and that was the game winner, with the Oilers cruising to a 5-0 victory. That's their second shutout of the weekend. Nugent-Hopkins called it a special and memorable night.
What the guys put together and the way they made this night a special night for myself and my family and friends was incredible and something that I'll never forget. And then obviously the fans out there, they're always electric, but the chants and stuff, that doesn't go unnoticed.
Only one other player has played more regular season games in an Oilers uniform than Nugent-Hopkins. Kevin Lowe played 1,037 career games, and Nugent can potentially pass him next season. Listen, the Oilers heating up on the ice, but outside.
Yeah, nice of them to score 1,000 goals this weekend to honor his 1,000th game, right?
goals, I love that.
It was somewhere around there, wasn't it?
11, but in hockey world, it's pretty much 1,000.
Hey, it was nice and warm over the weekend. 7 degrees for a daytime high on Saturday. Yesterday, temperatures kind of leveled off in the -5 to -7 range through most of the afternoon, although the official high will come in at +3. But through the afternoon, that cooler air started to drop in, and it stuck around all day today. -5 for your daytime high today. You'll notice that's no worse than about average. -15 is where we started today, -5 and -14, the averages for this time of year. Currently, we've slipped a couple of degrees. We're at -7 downtown and at the airports north and northwest and south of the city. Stony Plain's still a little bit milder there at -4. I think temperatures are going to kind of level off here for the next few hours, and then We'll climb to about -1 or -2 tomorrow afternoon. There is supposed to be a spectacular display of northern lights tonight. Unfortunately, almost nobody in Alberta will be able to see it. You can see the cloud cover kind of locked in across most of the province, maybe in the extreme northwest. You've got some snow that will develop and push through the Edmonton area overnight tonight, as well as some fairly strong wind. As we talked about off the top of the newscast, gusty overnight tonight here in the city, but not as bad as areas to the south. Red Deer and areas east, all those spots in green. Wind warning. Could see wind gusts 80 to 90 kilometers per hour overnight and early tomorrow in that area. Here in Edmonton, there's your temperatures leveling off in that -6, -7 range. Chance of some flurries or light snow through this evening and into the overnight period. I don't think it amounts to all that much. And then gusty all day tomorrow. So -1 or -2 for a high on thermometers, but it probably won't feel much warmer than the -5 to -10 range. And then it really starts to cool off middle to the end of this week. We'll tell you how much in just a few minutes.
Well, still ahead on CTV News at 6, a local horse rescues out thousands after a barn fire.
32 horse blankets are worth probably $10,000 just for the horse blankets alone.
The call for help as we head into a deep freeze.
It was definitely very upsetting, I'd say, but I'm not giving up. I still have hope.
And why getting into a STEM school is challenging for some Alberta students.
Programming brought to you by James H. Brown Injury Lawyers, the heavy hitters of injury law.
A local horse rescue is in need of help after fire ripped through its barn this weekend. While all 90 horses were saved, the barn and equipment inside are badly damaged. CTV's Merrick DeCash reports.
I looked out the window and seen smoke bellowing out of the building.
Five Freedoms ranch owner Bev Wilson says fire broke out at her barn Friday morning. She says fire trucks arrived 12 minutes after she called 911.
Thankfully, none of the horses were in there because we do let the horses go into that building when it's really cold. And I'm just so thankful they're all safe.
The ranch is located southeast of Sherwood Park and is home to horses that have been rescued.
We have thoroughbreds, everything, and they all came from neglect, abuse. Max came through the SPCA when he was seized, so we have horses from all different places, most of them safe from slaughter.
The ranch became a registered federal charity back in 2020. Cheryl Armstead has been a donor from the get-go.
I was looking to try to get into something that I could support, where I could be more of a support, that I could actually know the people that are doing this, not where you're just handing a check over to a nonprofit organization.
Armstead was shocked when she heard about the fire.
She's lost a lot of feed. She's lost all of her blankets, lots of things gone, but we can replace those.
All 90 horses are okay, but the building and equipment inside has been damaged.
32 horse blankets are worth probably $10,000 just for the horse blankets alone. And then the feed, we had a full pallet, so that's probably another $5,000 or so. And buckets and everything. I don't know. There's so much damage in there, it's going to take a while to assess. We had tools and all kinds of stuff. So
Wilson says the cause of the fire is electrical and it's not being considered suspicious. Five Freedoms Ranch is now accepting donations on its website. Merrick DeCash, CTV News, Edmonton.
An Alberta high school student is finding out the hard way that going to a STEM school and achieving top marks is no guarantee to secure a spot in a STEM post-secondary program. CTV's Tyler Barrow has more on the competition.
STEM Innovation Academy grade 12 student Asia Skander wants to study cardiothoracic surgery. She applied to the University of Calgary. She was optimistic she would get early admission in biological sciences. After all, Asia boasts a 93 average with her grade 12 courses combined with her grade 11 marks. But it wasn't enough.
It was definitely very upsetting, I'd say, but I'm not giving up. I still have hope.
Her journey is far from over. She is still waiting to hear back on her first choice program, but this is how tough it can be for students striving for the STEM stream. Some estimated competitive admission averages for U of C science programs for the fall are listed in the low, mid, and even high 90s.
The academic averages
since COVID have been exceedingly high, and they've remained quite high.
U of C points partly to significant province-wide population growth among university-aged individuals as applications increased by 9% compared to the previous year, adding domestic enrollment in the faculties of engineering and science has increased by 12.5% in fall 2025 compared to fall 2021. However, demand continues to outpace available capacity, impacting admission rates. At Mount Royal University, STEM seating has increased by 100 students from 2021 to 2026, and admission targets continue to climb.
The numbers coming to Calgary continuing to increase, and the number of places in a lot of these programs aren't growing accordingly.
STEM Innovation Academy is calling on the province to increase STEM funding in an effort to open up more seats for what it says are deserving students.
There's nothing wrong with competition, but when competition gets in the way of good kids getting access to programs, that's where an issue.
The Ministry of Advanced Education points to last year's budget, saying Alberta's government is investing more than $97 million to expand high-demand STEM programs, adding 624 seats in computer and software engineering, 609 seats in engineering, and 2,874 seats in technology programs across the province. Throughout the province, there are approximately 65,000 students enrolled in STEM programs. Asia Skander hopes that she will soon be part of that very select group. Tyler Barrow, CTV News, Calgary.
Well, coming up next, staying stimulated indoors.
Nothing is worse than cabin fever for dogs.
How to give your dog physical and mental activity during these cold and icy days. Also ahead.
We are expecting to see more than just the green.
A group of dedicated aurora chasers expect northern lights to overpower city lights. Their tips just ahead.
Cloud's going to be a problem for that, but we'll talk more about that after the break. Gusty wind overnight tonight, bit of snow from those clouds. Tell you how much to anticipate, and the big cool down for later this week. All still ahead.
Programming brought to you by James H. Brown Injury Lawyers, the heavy hitters of injury law.
Recent solar flaring activity on the surface of the sun is expected to make for a spectacular showing of the northern lights over North America tonight. Now, it's possible the aurora borealis will be so brilliant overnight that it may be visible even within city limits. Now, while it might be a little too cloudy for us here in Edmonton tonight, expert aurora chasers suggest heading out of the city for the best view.
Within the city limits, it's usually a little bit harder to see anything beyond green. The reds and the pinks aren't quite as bright, so those are less likely to overpower the city lights, although it can happen. But we are expecting to see more than just the green.
And it is expected the lights will start dancing right around midnight. However, the cloud's not really playing ball with us today.
No, I just got an email from Aurora Watch. Red alert for tonight.
What's red alert?
For the Aurora. Red alert. It's going to be
but we're
spectacular.
Not going to see it.
There may be a couple of spots in the province where there's a little bit of a gap in the cloud cover. I don't think there's a whole lot of chance here in Edmonton and surrounding area, though. There's the River Valley Skycam. It's brought to you by Action Furnace. Fix Writer. It's free. -7. Under cloudy skies. It's been pretty cloudy all day today. We'll show you the satellite map again in a second. -12 in Fort McMurray, 0 in Grand Prairie for a daytime high today. Red Deer hit -1. Here in Edmonton, we got to -5 for a daytime high. There's some snow falling across the northeast. A little bit of snow as well in through northwestern areas. And then from just southwest of Edmonton all the way down through to almost Medicine Hat, you have some snow. It's been broken flurries in and around the Red Deer area off and on through this afternoon. You notice how this is kind of danced around the Edmonton region? I think some of this to the north is going to kind of close in on us and then slide through anywhere between about 9 p.m. and midnight would be the most likely time frame. As far as amounts, doesn't look like too many areas are going to see anything more than a dusting to maybe 2 or 3 centimeters worth of snow. And you can see, yeah, there's not a lot of break in that cloud cover. It's going to hang with us right through the overnight period. So there's your snow going through. Does look like that will coincide with some stronger wind, especially for areas off to the south of the Edmonton region. And so blowing snow could be a problem overnight tonight or early tomorrow morning. You may also have to deal with some blowing snow here in northeastern Alberta and then east central parts of the province as you get a second shot of some snow through the day tomorrow. Here at Edmonton, looks like it'll be mostly cloudy to a mix of sun and cloud for much of the day. Gusty almost all day long, with some of the strongest wind potentially coming through tomorrow evening and then dying down for Wednesday. Watch these temperatures. Not bad for tomorrow, although wind chill will be a factor. You'll notice the darker blues, purples, and the pinks start to sink back in as the week goes on. In this pink zone here, east central, northeastern Alberta, that'll be the brunt of the coldest air. Daytime highs in the -20s. I think here in Edmonton, we'll see daytime highs in the mid-minus teens for Thursday, Friday. Back a little closer to -10 for Saturday, Sunday. And then we'll get out of this as we head through the early to middle part of next week. Now, there are some models that are suggesting we could be closer to 0 already by the end of the weekend. I think we're probably still into some cooler air through the weekend and into Monday, though. -12, Fort McMurray right now. It's 0 in Grand Prairie. -2 in Red Deer, and we've slipped to -7 here in the city. You notice the wind is not all that bad right now, but that will change in this green wind warning area overnight tonight. Gusts potentially 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. I think here in the city, gusts are going to be about 30 to 40 right through most of the day tomorrow. And then tomorrow evening, gusts to about 50 kilometers per hour. Chance of flurries or light snow through this evening. And then that'll taper off by early tomorrow morning. Just blustery -2 and wind chill in the -5 to -10 range tomorrow, with that colder air lurking for later this week.
Thank you, Josh. Well, with icy sidewalks and streets, getting your pet outside can be a challenge. CTV's Gate Gorin found out how to keep them physically and mentally stimulated.
12-year-old Supernova knows to keep her eyes on the prize. She and her canine companions are staying stimulated indoors under the watchful eye of their human, Govind Pillai.
Nothing is worse than cabin fever for dogs.
With the blast of cold temperatures set to return, Pillai says issues can arise from dogs that are not able to get the right amount of both physical and mental activity from being outside.
When I look at the dogs that are having behavioral problems, more reactivity, more fear, more uncertainty, I have to take a look at their day, and what's often missing is that stimulation, that robust, comprehensive stimulation.
Veterinarian Charlene Laprise adds cold and icy conditions can pose problems for dogs and owners that aren't prepared.
So if a dog is jumping at a fence and it's icy underneath, they can slip, they can hurt their knee, they can hurt themselves. Plus, it's just not good for them mentally.
She adds dogs can become frustrated if they're cooped up inside for days on end. But both say there are plenty of ways to get your pup up and engaged.
Food puzzle toys are great ways to keep them occupied. Dogs don't actually need to eat from a bowl. You can find engaging ways to have them hunt for or find their food.
The mouth. There's a way to stimulate the mouth in a really appropriate way. There's activities we can look at. Agility, really appropriate tug of war to help release predatory behaviors.
Being social around people and other dogs can also help with mental stimulation. It's about getting creative within the walls of your home.
So there's different ways of engaging, I think, different faculties of the brain, different processes in their bodies, where at the end, even though you haven't gone for that 45 one-hour walk, they're pooped.
If you do find some time outside, it's recommended both human and dog gear up to take on the cold.
Just an opportunity to sniff, get out there, and then get back in the house. Like that versus not ever getting out of the house for 3, 4, 7 days in a row, there's a big difference.
And taking steps to be as prepared as possible will make for some happy pups at the end of the day. Gates Gorin, CTV News, Edmonton.
Well, coming up, Canadian soldiers could soon be training in Greenland.
Just to show the Americans that you can't push around a NATO ally and threaten to take over a country against their will.
Reports Canadian military members could take part in training exercises with a number of European allies. Plus, famous fashion designer Valentino has died. A senior government source tells CTV News Ottawa is thinking about sending a small contingent of soldiers to participate in NATO training exercises in Greenland. CTV's Mike Lecouture now on the balancing act as Trump threatens additional tariffs on other EU countries over this.
The picturesque landscape of Greenland could soon host a handful of Canadian soldiers. The members of our military would participate in training exercises with a number of European allies.
They framed it as a long-planned military exercise.
Canada's former ambassador to NATO says these deployments were originally planned to deter Russian action, but it could have the same effect on President Trump.
Trump is taking it as a message, and perhaps, unspoken, the allies will think of that as a way of changing Trump's risk calculus.
Canada's troop commitment would likely be less than the dozen soldiers Germany is sending to Greenland. Still, there could be blowback for Canada, as U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening tariffs on any ally that sends troops.
Just to show the Americans that, you can't push around a NATO ally and threaten to take over a country against their will.
Now, to minimize the political fallout, some suggest appealing to Trump in a different way.
Try to turn the tables a little bit and say, let's all be in this together when it comes to the defense of the Arctic in North America, rather than make it appear as if somehow we're marshalling a force to defend Greenland from the Americans.
NBC News is also reporting Trump is complaining to aides about Canada's vulnerability in the Arctic. That's despite Canada already committing $6 billion to an over-the-horizon radar system for the far north.
We have to do more in our Arctic, but we also have to be kind of calm. More important thing is to work with our Arctic allies to deter and to get ready for any threat.
But the source of that threat in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape depends on where you are in the world. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump will likely run into each other at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland this week. Now, it comes as reports say the U.S. president is ratcheting up his criticism of Canada behind the scenes. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver is in Davos, the third stop on the PM's trip, to shore up global trade ties and move away from depending on the Americans.
The Prime Minister is one of a record 400 top political leaders in Davos for the World Economic Forum. But it's one leader who's not even there yet, Donald Trump, who is dominating the conversation and raising the tension. Prime Minister Mark Carney will kickstart his time at the World Economic Forum with a fireside chat tomorrow and a speech later in the day all about what he calls the New World Order and Canada's approach. Expect him to talk about trade and the importance of diversifying Canada's trading partner, a message he has been spreading throughout this trip. But while trade and the economy may be topics the leaders here want to talk about, geopolitics and Trump's latest tariff threats are quickly taking over. A number of the 8 EU leaders facing Trump tariffs over Greenland will be at the World Economic Forum, including French President Emmanuel Macron tomorrow, who Carney will be meeting with. Right now, there is no indication that Carney and Trump will be meeting, but the two will be in Davos at the same time. The Prime Minister has said if he runs into Trump, he will raise his concerns about Greenland and the fact that Canada stands with Denmark and Greenland. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Corton, Switzerland.
A 19-year-old Canadian woman was found dead this morning near a popular Australian tourist site. Police were called to a beach on an island off of the country's east coast for reports of an unresponsive woman. Initial information suggests she went for a swim about 90 minutes earlier. 2 men driving past the beach saw a pack of wild dogs near the body. Now, authorities say it's too early in the investigation to know if the dogs were involved with the death. The death toll from a deadly train crash in Spain has risen to 39, with dozens more injured. It happened earlier today when a Madrid-bound train derailed and the tail end crossed over to the opposite tracks, colliding with another train. Experts studying the site say a faulty rail joint may have played a role in the crash. Spain's prime minister says an investigation will take place and has declared 3 days of mourning. Legendary Italian fashion designer Valentino Garavani has died. Known simply as Valentino, the designer opened his first studio in 1959 in Rome. It grew into a fashion empire, with his designs turning heads on runways and red carpets around the world. Now, he's also credited with creating an iconic and vibrant shade famously called Valentino Red. In a statement posted online, his foundation said he passed away peacefully at his home, surrounded by family. Valentino was 93 years old. A rare glimpse into orca hunting behavior was captured off the coast of Victoria. Now, this pod of orcas is known as the T-19s. Now, they are transient orcas, or Big's killer whales, which silently pursue larger prey such as the sea lion hunt, while resident orcas are more vocal and feed on fish. Now, the Orca Behavior Institute says this successful hunt took place last week in the Harrow Strait. An Ottawa neighborhood has become a hotspot for crows. Thousands of crows have been spotted in the trees and flying in the area both in December and this month. Now, according to Environment Canada, crows roost in winter for warmth and safety, and residential neighborhoods offer tall trees, fewer predators, and easy access to food. Well, still to come, feeling the pinch.
There's more global demand that's driving the prices up.
Inflation is hitting popular items at the grocery store. Also ahead.
I think that's our role as council, is all we're doing is exploring the pros and cons.
A central Alberta town investigates potential city status. Well, taking a look at today's markets, the Canadian dollar traded for 72 cents to the American dollar. Oil was up 9 cents, closing the day at $59.43 US a barrel. Gold gained more than $81 on the day. Now, the TSX ended the day higher, up 50 points. U.S. stock markets are closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Inflation in Canada ticked up slightly last month to 2.4% in December. Statistics Canada says the year-over-year acceleration was driven by the removal of the GST tax break that was in effect in 2024. Now, the price of food also rose. CTV's Genevieve Boschman has more on the struggle at the grocery store.
In these cookies, there's a secret ingredient.
You have a passion for coffee.
I'm obsessed, a little bit. Stephanie Presta started a home business, Montreal Latte Heart, combining that shot of caffeine with another passion, baking.
So I infuse my cookies with my coffee, and the coffee makes the flavors really come out of the cookies.
But that is now a recipe for higher costs. The latest Statistics Canada inflation numbers show coffee went up 30% annually, and that sweets were also pricier.
Weather variability and lower yields just means that there's less coffee beans being produced and there's more global demand. That's driving the prices up.
A similar story has unfolded for beef prices. They're up 16%. The cattle stock in Canada is low, boosting prices. Coffee and beef are the main staples that saw a 5% hike annually for grocery items. But overall, many economists see some positive signs for food inflation in the report.
If you take out beef and some of the secondary effects on proteins, take out coffee, take out a couple of other things that have had extreme weather issues, the news is relatively optimistic for food prices going forward.
For Presta, relief from rising prices could mean investing in her passions is worth all the hard work.
There were moments this Christmas where I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
And with the cost of dining out going up too, it's hard to find a treat at a sweet price. Genevieve Boschman, CTV News, Montreal.
Billionaire wealth reached a record high in 2025 in Canada. A new report from Oxfam Canada shows the wealth of Canada's 40 richest people grew by more than 20% last year to reach almost $550 billion. There are at least 89 billionaires in Canada. The report shows the country's wealthiest 1% now hold almost $1.25 trillion in wealth, which is almost as much as the entire bottom 80% of people combined. Alberta bars can now apply to serve alcohol at special hours during the Winter Olympics. The Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission has allowed bars to stay open and serve people during other major international sports events. Now, there are certain rules that must be followed. The event must be a medal round. The bar can't be open for a full 24 hours, and a food menu must be available. For a full list of rules that are available at the AGLC website, the Milano Cortino Games begin on February 6th. The town of Sylvan Lake is exploring the idea of becoming a city. Council unanimously passed a motion to allow administration to begin working on what that could look like. Administration committed to a detailed report to outline the pros and cons of becoming a city. Now, there are some concerns about how a status change could affect things like tourism and industry. Council is supportive of gathering as much information as possible.
So I think it's something we have to explore. I think that's our role as council, is all we're doing is exploring the pros and cons. And to be honest, I don't know enough about it, and I would like to learn more.
Well, there's no timeline for when a report will be ready. Administration says any move towards a status change would require public engagement. Well, still ahead, lighting up Edmonton.
This is really important to Edmonton, especially in January when the darkness is really here.
A local winter festival celebrates a record-breaking crowd.
We've got another great night of entertainment coming up right here on CTV, starting at 7 with E-Talk.
Coming up Tuesday on Your Morning, we'll continue to save you money. We're in the kitchen with ways to stretch your ingredients into several different meals. We'll see what it says.
Your Morning Edmonton, weekdays.
Programming brought to you by the Billy Joel Songbook with your Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. Learn more at winspearcenter.com.
Organizers say a record-breaking crowd took in this year's Deep Freeze Winter Festival. So organizers say more than 40,000 people turned out this past Saturday alone. A Deep Freeze honors the old New Year and blends Ukrainian, French-Canadian, Indigenous, and Franco-African influences. People enjoyed performances, food, ice carvings, ice slides, and art installations.
This is really important to Edmonton, especially in January when the darkness is really here. It's wonderful to have some sparkles and some light, and a festival that just brings everybody together in Edmonton. It's arts, it's culture, it's sport, and it's community.
Organizers credit the warm temperatures for the high turnout. Well, thousands lined up to take in the annual skijoring in Banff. Now, the event combines horse riding and skiing. It's the fourth year the town has hosted the sport as part of the Snow Days Festival. People came from across Canada to take part.
We put on events in winter to give people a reason to come out to the mountains at this time of year. We're very busy during the summer months, and events allow us to kind of spread out demand and help boost the economy and lift it during this time of year.
Now, if you missed out, you'll have another chance to take in the sport next month. That's when Skidjor Canada will be in Calgary. All right, so a big congrats goes out to one of our own. Reporter Amanda Anderson has been crowned the 2025 Alberta Women's Pinball Champ. So over the weekend, she secured a spot in the first ever national championships that's happening next month, as well as a spot in the North American Championships in the U.S. happening in March. While Amanda has played in a few provincials before, she says this was her best finish. She's been competing for 8 years now. Look at that big smile. She is such a fan of the sport. She even has a pinball dress, which I really appreciate. But yeah.
Good for her.
Very proud of her.
I've been hearing for years about her exploits. So well done and well deserved, Amanda. -7 tomorrow morning here in Edmonton. We've got some light snow expected overnight tonight. It'll be a little windy as well overnight and through most of the day tomorrow. About 20 gusting to 40 for most of the day. Cloudy with a few sunny breaks and a high of -2. And then it starts to get a little bit colder. Yeah, back into the mid-minus teens for daytime highs for Thursday, Friday. Closer to -10 this coming weekend.
Well, you were a champ in my eyes when you were giving us those balmy winter temps. But
now, not so much. Now more like a chump.
That's all we have for tonight. Thank you. Good night.
Woodman booed me.